Aha! Yes, I want to talk about the Sealmate. This little thing bugs me. Not the thing itself, for what it's intended for, is absolutely fine. But the way that people talk about these, the way that people throw this comment out there, is a bit of a problem because there is a bit of a safety issue connected to not this directly, but not doing the job properly. So let me first explain what a Sealmate is. On a motorcycle, on the forks, hold on, let me just put this under here, you have a dust seal, an oil seal, and then the tube of the suspension, okay? And that tube is filled with oil. That is a special type of oil. It comes in different weights. You see this is a 7.5. This one is a 5. And that oil is there to dampen your suspension. Now, when you do a fork seal replacement and you refill the oil, if you look at the service manual, and I've looked at the service manual for this CBR 500R, the tolerance of you know, the plus or minus that you can have on the measurement of oil is 0.08 fluid ounces, which is about 3 millilitres. It's not a lot, okay? The reason that you want to have them the same is because obviously two different forks, completely unconnected, you need them to have the same oil and the same quantity of oil for them to act evenly. You can actually put a bit more oil in suspension to make them slightly firmer. Don't just go and do that. Learn about it. It's not necessarily the best way of doing things. Heavier oil, etc. is better, but I'm just saying it is possible to slightly stiffen the suspension by increasing the volume of oil. So, decreasing the volume of oil is going to decrease the dampening force. Okay? Now, you don't want that. And if the tolerance in the service manual is such a small amount, I have a feeling you don't need to lose much before you might be having some detrimental effect. What you really should do, especially if they aren't brand new fork seals, is have the fork seals replaced. It's not a particularly difficult job to do. It can be problematic, as people who watch my channel know, in the sense of getting parts and things like that. But normally it shouldn't be a problem. My XJ6 ones were pretty much a dream, nice and easy. I did those in a recent build series. These are for my other half CBR because we're having to do the suspension because this set of suspension was an absolute nightmare inside when I took it apart. Anyway, beside the point. The story would go like this. You wake up one day, you look at your fork stanchion and you see a bit of oil there and you're like, oh god, fork seals are going. So you're like, oh yeah, that person told me to go and use a Sealmate, so you go and buy yourself a Sealmate. And there is a million videos on this all over YouTube and they all basically say the same thing. Will the Sealmate do its job? Will this trick save you all the money of having to get your fork seals replaced? Yada yada. Now, to my understanding of their intended use, these are actually great and they're fine. But people aren't using them in the right context. So first things first, let me explain the job of what you would do. All you need to imagine here is there is an actual tube on the suspension here, you know, the wheels down this end, and this is the oil seal and the dust seal. So I'm reading the detailed instructions from Sealmate's website because they too neglect to mention this really important factor. Clean the entire area around the dust seal. Use a small flathead screwdriver to assist in sliding away the dust seal, exposing the oil seal. Like so, and the tube is here, oil seal is there. This is the one that will be leaking. Its job, basically, is just stop oil that's inside here getting out. So it has little wiper blades on the inside, has a little ring spring that holds that wiper blade against the edge, and it stops the oil from getting out of your fork. And water getting in. Should also note that. Clean the entire area around the oil seal, so around this bit inside the top of the fork, contact cleaner, toothbrush, towel. Slide the dust seal down the fork so the Sealmate can fix your leaky fork seals. Carefully insert the back end of the Sealmate tool between the seal and fork tube. This should be approximately ½ inch deep. Slide the back end of the Sealmate tool into the fork and rotate the tool around the parallel with the fork tube. Gently rotate the Sealmate around the fork tube, making sure that the hooked end is the leading edge. Rotate the Sealmate around your oil seal to remove the dirt and debris from the seals. After a complete rotation, continue rotating Sealmate. So the way you use these is that you slide this underneath the fork seal, like so, and then with a hooked end, and then you run it. Okay, I couldn't have written that, but this thing is really old. You then run it around, all the way around, and then you pull it out. And if it doesn't snap in half and leave pieces of plastic inside your fork, this is probably just old and degraded by chemicals and stuff, to make that clear. I don't think these would normally break like that. This is very old. So you get the idea. You're basically scraping out dirt that's holding up that wiping edge and allowing oil to come out. So once you cleaned it out, wipe down the entire area of the fork tube, grab the front brake, compress, pump fork several times, wipe the entire area of the fork tube, pump again, inspect the fork tube for excess oil. If excess oil is present, repeat steps 8 to 11, which is basically the cleaning process. So, you clean it, test it, wipe off the oil that comes out until you've got it to the point that it seems to have stopped leaking oil. And then you just replace the dust seal, slide the dust seal back up into the fork, clean and return the dust seal to the original position, reinstall guard, done. Simple, easy tool, fix your oil seals. And that's all great if you use it for its intended purpose. My understanding of the Sealmate is that it was for MX riders who did weekend racing, and say, I don't know, halfway through your first day, your oil seals start leaking a bit of oil. It's probably because you've got dirt and stuff crammed right up in there, because dirt bikes get a lot of dirt and stuff in. It's got to get through the dust seal and everything before dirt is going to be your problem. But it can happen for them. So rather than ruining their weekend and stopping them from racing or having to do a full rebuild at the side of the track, back in the pits, they can try and get the bike through one of these, get the dirt out, and then after the race weekend, they can attend to them properly. And that's fine. But people talk about using this on road bikes, and the thing is, it's kind of like the last vestige of the man or woman who knows they need to change their fork seals but doesn't want to pay for it or get it done right now. So they're going to come along and they're going to go through that whole process. Now, this is where my issue is, okay? As I mentioned earlier on, the plus or minus that these should be filled to is 3 millilitres. If in all the time that it's been leaking and you didn't notice, because maybe the rain was washing it off, oil's got out. Then you've noticed that oil's got out and you've got your Sealmate out and you've cleaned it out and you've tested it a few times. Maybe you've had to do it a few times because it's not worked. Clean the oil off every time. Great, eventually it seals. Everything's good, right? Well, no, because no one mentions, including Sealmate, that once that's done, you do not know how much oil is in that fork anymore. It could be that it stopped leaking because it doesn't have any in there anymore. It could be that bad. Or it could be that it's, 50 mils out, which is going to have an effect. So really, yes, you can use these to try and fix your fork seals, and if it does work, great. But then you really should get your bike and measure the fork oil from one side to the other and make sure it's correct for what it should be on your bike. Because, as I say, there is no way of you knowing what's in there, which means you have to open it. And if you're opening it, alright, yeah, it's easier to take the top caps off and fill it with some extra oil, measure it, and stuff. It just doesn't seem like a very good idea to do that on your everyday running bike. I mean, if you know your fork seals are 15,000 miles old, don't go and get one of these thinking you're going to fix them, because you're not, most likely. I mean, do what you want. It's your life, but I'm just saying, from my perspective, the way that the internet talk about these things is far from reality of where they should and shouldn't be used, and no one ever seems to mention the fork oil issue. This is a bit of a compounding problem, because the person that goes for this, rather than changing their fork seals, well, I would take from that they don't know how to change fork seals. So they probably won't know the issues of not having even oil and why you probably don't want to use one of these in that context. This should be a stopgap thing. This should be, use it to get you to the destination or back from a trip or something, and then change the seals. It's not a permanent fix. It's not going to fix old, worn-out seals. Now, in my stupidness, when I was younger, on my 125s, even though I did do quite a bit of off-roading, I wasn't really in the area of, MX riders. I did try and use this, and it worked for like a week. And then the fork seal went anyway because it was old. If they are old and brittle, shoving this up inside there could have detrimental effects to that seal and cause it to perish or crack or anything like that. It might not. You might get lucky. As I say, I haven't got a problem with this product per se. It's a thin piece of plastic with Sealmate written on it. It's like the tension sheet in Red Dwarf. There are all sorts of different versions of this out there, not called Sealmate. This is the branded one. There's probably a Seal Bro out there or something like that. Water Doggo friend. So as I say, no hate towards Sealmate themselves. I don't actually see a problem with the product. I think it was pretty smart to get a thin piece of plastic and print your name on it and sell thousands of them. Fair play to them. And it does a good job for the thing it was supposed to do, to my understanding. But the way that people use them, as I say, to try and fix not doing maintenance is a worry. Because it means that they don't even understand why what they're doing is not a good idea. And if no one points out to them, oil levels are important in your forks, they're never ever going to know. As I say, if you've left a comment about this on my videos recently, this is not aimed directly at you. This is aimed at all of the comments, and there is lots of them that I've had over the past years. Every time I ever have an oil seal problem, the first thing that comes up in the comments is someone says, have you tried using a Sealmate? Yes, I have been a biker for like 13 plus years at this point. I know about all the little tricks and things. So yeah, if you've got anything to add to this, if you think I've got something wrong, or you think there is more to it, then definitely leave a comment below. I'm very interested to know what people have got to say on this. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, found it interesting or useful. And if you'd like to subscribe to help me get to 100k, I would really appreciate that. Button there. And if you want to help support this channel, please consider my Patreon for many benefits, including Discord and early videos and all that sort of jazz. So thank you for watching. Hope you're all good out there. I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.